The conversation begins with the guest's unique identity as a cacao shaman, a title he humorously self-declared after attending a sacred cacao ceremony in Berlin. He explains that unlike other professions, becoming a cacao shaman simply requires passion and intent.
I self-declared. It's like putting up a shingle. Hey, I'm a cacao shaman.
The guest emphasizes cacao's profound impact on health and consciousness, inviting others to rediscover their innate potential.
Chocolate makes people happy. It helps your brain function, your circulation. But in the ceremonies I do, the key message is that you are the drug.
His philosophy suggests that everything holds sacredness, advocating for a perspective where life's entirety is revered.
If we recognize that everything is sacred, then we infuse life with sacredness and meaning.
Transitioning to genetic manipulation, the discussion addresses humanity's evolutionary journey and the creative process that defines it.
That's very interesting from a guy who specializes essentially in manipulating life.
The guest acknowledges the apprehensions surrounding genetic advancements, but characterizes them as an extension of human evolution.
For about 3.8 billion years, our species has evolved by Darwinian evolution. We are deciphering what it means to be human.
While understanding public concerns about genetically modified foods, he highlights that significant changes in agriculture are part of our history.
For a lot of people, they feel like so many changes happened before they realized.
If you went back 12,000 years ago and said, "Find me everything at Whole Foods," most didn't exist. We've created them.
In this dialogue, the guest reveals a harmonious interplay between recognizing sacredness in life and embracing genetic science, promoting an enlightening view of human progress. In a fascinating exploration of human reproduction and genetic manipulation, the conversation moves to future technological shifts. The host speculates on lab-based conception becoming a societal norm.
What if we get to a place where people say, "You're being irresponsible just having a kid the old-fashioned way. We don't do it that way in 2099.
The guest suggests that societal norms might soon favor lab-based conception for safer and healthier offspring.
I think we're moving towards societal change where people will see conceiving their kids in the lab as a safer alternative. It's not just safety. It opens up all kinds of technology applications. You have a lot more information.
The conversation turns to genetic applications, focusing on health and longevity, while exploring more extreme possibilities.
How long do you think before you have a person with 4 arms?
I think it's going to take a long time. A couple 100 years?
Emerging technologies like embryo selection and induced pluripotent stem cells are discussed as potential game changers.
The next killer application is using induced pluripotent stem cells. You take a skin graft and induce those skin cells into stem.
The conversation delves into the controversial frontier of gene doping in athletics, where genetic manipulation could enhance an athlete's physical performance. It's a complex intersection of science and ethics that challenges traditional notions of fairness.
In order to change the expression of genes so your body acts like you're genetically enhanced, it's complicated. Your genes instruct cells to make proteins, and by altering gene expression, you can change how a body behaves, as if it had genetic optimization.
The World Anti-Doping Agency is examining this possibility, even though success in gene doping is still largely undocumented. Yet with countries like China employing extensive testing for Olympic hopefuls, the implications of genetic enhancements loom large.
China tests kids nationwide to find potential athletes and trains them rigorously. If they start doing this at a genetic level, it could change everything. Countries like Kazakhstan are already planning on screening athletes genetically.
While the science isn't fully developed, the possibility of predicting athletic potential through genome sequencing is approaching reality.
It's going to throw a monkey wrench into what is fair in sports. Really, what is fair?
People already alter their bodies with training, diet, exercise, and various recovery techniques. But imagine if sports didn't allow practice or workouts. We're used to these changes, even though nobody was doing that 10,000 years ago while chasing a buffalo.
The evolving boundaries of athletic enhancement force us to reconsider what it means to be human as we harmonize the natural with the technologically possible. The societal reflection on this shift is crucial as we continue to explore the potential and ethics of genetic interventions. The conversation takes us into the frontier of human consciousness, where technology meets the essence of our biological selves. Our guest recently visited Hiroshi Ishiguro's lab, engaging with Erica, a humanoid robot capable of basic interactions. This led to a profound discussion.
I debated with Ishiguro about humanity's future. He suggested we might become non-biological to achieve immortality, but I see it differently. We are inherently biological. If we lose that, it's like committing suicide as a species.
Transforming consciousness into ones and zeros sounds terrifying. Imagine someone deciding to make you suffer forever.
The guest expresses skepticism about the idea of uploading consciousness, questioning its authenticity. The heart of the dialogue lies in existential concerns about maintaining identity in digital realms.
Would anyone choose to stop being who they are and just be data? When you're dead, I think you're just dead. Time stops. That's a kind of immortality because for you, time's halted.
A deeper philosophical reflection unfolds, contemplating whether the soul can transcend this biological barrier. The guest argues that our perception of the soul is tied to our biology.
I believe our biological experiences cease when our biology stops functioning. I haven't explored psychedelics, but recognize our greatest tool is ourselves. The ultimate drug is us.
Ever tempted by psychedelics?
Not really. If we want to expand consciousness, there are other ways, like meditation or awareness.
The exploration of consciousness turns inward, embracing self-awareness over artificial enhancement. The dialogue hints at enlightenment as a profound acceptance of our human condition. Technology may integrate with us, but our essence remains deeply biological. The conversation delves deeply into the coexistence of human values and technological progression. The guest emphasizes the enduring importance of elements like art and connection in the face of rapid technological growth.
And the least technical people, like some of the nurses or nurses' aides, are often valued and paid the least. But when technology can do these feats, what's left is how we can be great humans. How we can emote, how we can connect, how we can create art.
Right. As humans, what we value is the art, the creations.
Art and literature are highlighted as unique windows into the human mind, transcending the limitations of data.
When you read someone's great prose, you're reading an insight into their mind. You're not going to get that from just ones and zeros.
Mystery and uniqueness are celebrated even in an age of scientific determinism. The guest warns against reducing humanity to mere genetics or biological determinism.
There will always be mystery. Even if we do a genetic analysis of Shakespeare, we can't say we're just our genetics or just our biology.
What if that mystery is ignorance, and as we understand more, there's less mystery?
We just don't know the answer. And some say death is essential for appreciating life. Suffering has added humanity to others, but it's wacky to think it's a gift.
Concerns about AI and its potential risks are discussed, with a balanced perspective on potential benefits and dangers.
Are you concerned with artificial intelligence?
People like Elon Musk are afraid, and I think we need to focus on those risks. If we ignore them, it increases the chance of them happening.
So kudos to Elon Musk, right?
Yes, but we're a long way from that threat. These technologies will benefit us greatly. It's all about values, and we must take these threats seriously.
In a thought-provoking dialogue, our guest and host delve into the complex interrelation between genetic advancements and societal values. The guest suggests that genetically modified humans bring about an innate discomfort, similar to what we see with GMO foods.
And now we're entering the era of genetically modified humans, and there's that same level of uncomfortableness. Imagine how agitated people are about GMO foods. If they don't have a say in how the genetic experience plays out, people are going to go berserk.
The host counters, highlighting how human-made creations like cities are extensions of our nature.
I think that everything people do is natural, including cities. That's why they're all over the world. Technology is something people naturally make.
The guest and host then explore historical contexts, discussing the evolution of agricultural practices, using corn as a prime example. The guest points out the dangers of romanticizing the past.
If you had natural wheat or natural corn used to be a tiny little thing. We can't fetishize that imaginary world where kind of everybody was wearing Birkenstocks and eating in Whole Foods. That imaginary world sucked for us.
The conversation turns to potential social inequities that might arise from emerging technologies.
I'm worried that rich people are going to get a hold of this technology quick and have massive unfair advantages in terms of intellect, in terms of physical athletic ability.
The guest acknowledges these fears, emphasizing the importance of evolving societal values to align with these innovations.
That's a very, very real danger. If we approach these revolutionary technologies using the same values that we experience today, where we're here and very comfortable, but just down the road, there are people without many opportunities.
He stresses the need for inclusive dialogues to ensure these technologies serve broader societal benefits.
There's a better possible future and a worse possible future. How can we infuse our best values into the process to optimize the good stuff and minimize the
The conversation centers on accelerating technology and the intricate nature of human biology. The guest discusses the rapid pace of change and its implications for society.
Like when you think of what's a 10-year unit of change looking in the rearview mirror, that amount of change is only going to take 5 years going forward, and then 2 years, and then 1 year. And so that's the reason why I've written this book, to emphasize the speed at which this is coming.
The guest delves into the complexities of genetic code and interconnected biological systems, highlighting how human genetics operates within a changing environment.
First, humans and all of us are incredibly complex. Our genetics exists within incredibly complex systems biology, including our microbiome and virome, amidst a dynamic environment.
Equity and diversity are key themes, exploring the consequences when groups progress at different rates and the need for varied perspectives and decisions.
This issue of equity. What happens if we have, every technology has to have first adopters. But what happens if a group of people move much more quickly than other people? Diversity is our survival strategy.
So essentially, we're going to have, without doubt, some unintended consequences that are going to take place that we really can't predict.
The discussion shifts to unintended consequences, stressing the need to integrate values into technology for positive outcomes.
These technologies will happen. It's vital to weave the right values into our decision-making.
Unintended consequences are something that I've been taking very seriously lately, especially in social media.
In conclusion, the guest urges informed decision-making, recognizing short-term sacrifices for long-term fulfillment through diversity and clarity in technological and biological futures. The focus shifts to humanity's transformative moment, taking control of its own evolutionary process. There's an urgent need for inclusive dialogue.
The future of our entire species and democracy is what's at stake. We have a moment now where we can influence how these revolutions play out.
The guest emphasizes expanding the discussion beyond science, advocating for everyone's right to participate.
Anybody has an equal right to be part of this conversation as the top scientists or leaders of any country. We need a grassroots movement.
Yeah, it's not just a scientific conversation, it's about the future of this species.
Ethics and values must guide rapid advancements in technology and genetics. Resources for public education are essential.
We wrote Hacking Darwin to engage everyone, with humor to make it accessible.
Inclusive conversations must respect diverse beliefs and address ethical concerns like playing God.
We need to start preparing and make people feel they're respected and included.
If someone said, hey, you've got to speak about the consequences clearly, I'd be like, no, I'm not. But that's why forums like yours are so important.
In conclusion, the guest stresses the importance of collective dialogue and education in shaping the future of human genetic engineering. The dialogue on genetic engineering and technology integration explores the ethical challenges of scientific advancements. The guest and host dive into the complex relationship between scientific advancement and deeply held beliefs.
It's hard to explain how you could justify everything that we've done. I really respect people who say life begins at conception, and any manipulation after that is going too far. Those people need to have a seat at the table.
Religious perspectives like Tikkun Olam in Judaism view the world as imperfect, encouraging improvements through scientific development.
In Judaism, Tikkun Olam means it's our responsibility to try to fix the world, to make it a better place.
They discuss technology's integration into human biology, with future advancements surpassing today's gadgets.
We're basically talking about doing stuff to the biology. What about symbiotic interactions with technology?
People in Sweden are already putting little chips in their hands. In 20 or 30 years, people will look at our phones as relics, because technology is becoming part of us.
The guest envisions a future of human and AI collaboration, stressing the need for adaptive global regulations.
The future is human plus AI. We must be cautious, but how do we regulate it? Our understanding must keep pace. I'm part of the World Health Organization's efforts for global regulation.
Reflecting on these challenges, the guest admits the task's enormity, even for organizations like WHO.
Even the World Health Organization isn't enough. The task is so much bigger.
The conversation ends with the host's curiosity about the frequency of global discussions on these critical issues.
So you're meeting every couple of months?
Yes, because things are changing quickly.
The discussion unfolds with the responsibilities of governments in regulating technologies like gene editing and AI. Without oversight, these could lead to dystopian futures.
Governments need to ensure broad access and regulate these technologies to avoid those scenarios. We need to represent our collective will. It's why humans created governments.
The guest emphasizes democracy's role in reflecting public will, allowing for guardrails on technological advancements.
Every person needs to understand these technologies, like genetics and AI, and the values they stand for.
Concerns about international competition arise, particularly regarding China's progress in gene editing.
People worry that others, like China and Russia, may take steps we're not ready to take. What's stopping people from becoming the Hulk or immortal?
China is a significant issue. The US-China rivalry over these technologies will shape the 21st century. We have to balance competitiveness with global rules to prevent a technological arms race.
The conversation highlights the practicality of gene therapy in combating diseases like cancer, illustrating these advancements are reshaping our present and future.
We're already there with gene therapy. We can manipulate a cancer patient's cells, give them cancer-fighting abilities, and reintegrate them, allowing the body to fight back stronger.
The conversation delves into the urgency of preparing for the genetics revolution. Strategic leadership is necessary for creating international systems that regulate advancements responsibly.
I'm speaking in Congress soon about these issues. We need some kind of international system.
The host draws parallels with nuclear weapons control, highlighting government and public involvement.
With nuclear weapons, a lot of that happened at the state level. This needs to happen at a popular level too.
They discuss transitioning from representative to popular democracy, requiring public education to avoid gut-based decision-making.
We haven't educated our public, yet they're making big decisions on a gut feeling.
Equal opportunity is what we should strive for. But what I'm worried about is some people getting a massive advantage.
The guest calls for the U.S. to lead by example, stressing governance and popular involvement in shaping biotechnology's future.
I am a proud American. My father and grandparents were refugees. I believe in what this country stands for at our best. I want us to continue setting an example for the rest of the world.
The conversation shifts to China's aggressive stance in technology and what it means for global power dynamics.
Certainly, the rise of China is such an essential story for the 21st century because China is competing in all of these technologies.
The guest argues for proactive immigration policies to attract global talent, contrasting current defensive approaches.
I'd like to go to the State Department and say, every embassy in the world, you have a new job.
We learned about Huawei because they put out some pretty innovative phones and some interesting technology.
For sure, the founder of Huawei is a former Chinese military officer. We should be really worried if Huawei is the sole supplier of the infrastructure that supports 5G all around the world.
The conversation highlights Huawei's ties to the Chinese government and the security concerns they pose.
Government regulation on products like Huawei should be tight because they can extract information.
It's like comparing cars. We had our automotive issues and Japan took over. But here, the stakes are higher.
The conversation turns to North Korea and the depiction of its organization and infrastructure.
North Korea is the most organized place I've seen. Everything's controlled, and in agriculture, people are the animals pulling plows.
The guest predicts no resolution in nuclear diplomacy, emphasizing the need for informed international governance.
Trump's meetings were more about show than substance. There's zero indication they'll give up nuclear weapons. It's their survival plan.
In a fascinating discussion about immersive technology, the guest describes scenarios where virtual experiences feel convincingly real.
You put on the glasses, you see people around you, but suddenly you're in an elevator on the outside of a high-rise. There's a cat at the end of a rickety board. Even knowing it's not real, your instincts scream in protest.
The host raises an intriguing question about virtual reality becoming preferable to real life.
Isn't that the idea of the Matrix? If virtual life feels better, what stops us from opting for it entirely?
They explore augmented reality's implications, like permanent virtual modifications in daily life.
How long before people choose virtual dog ears as part of their everyday appearance?
The guest envisions technology like contact lenses providing tailored information, pondering its implications.
Imagine meeting someone and instantly having their background data appear through discrete lenses. Useful, but what are the implications?
The guest revisits early mobile technology projects, highlighting the collaboration with scientists on addressing future challenges.
We have this brief window for a species-wide dialogue on human genetic engineering. I work with incredible scientists like George Church and David Sinclair.
In a thought-provoking discussion, the guest explores genetic and AI convergence over the next 2 decades.
So you feel like genetic manipulation is the big change in the next 20 years?
Genetics and AI are converging in fascinating ways. The complexity of genetics is vast, influencing AI's development.
The guest urges caution against genetic determinism, emphasizing the importance of preserving human diversity.
Values will be crucial, and artists will play a key role in interpretation.
The conversation delves into North Korea, examining strategic maneuverings and diplomatic challenges.
Even with limited resources, they're in the game, holding us to a stalemate.
The guest reflects on past advisories, stressing the need for integration and global connection.
Integrated development could leverage involvement, but past diplomacy was superficial.
Do you think Trump avoided pressing on human rights to keep communication open?
Even though there was a prospect of progress, U.S. intelligence knew North Korea had no intention of denuclearizing. We gave away so much without them doing anything in return.
The conversation explores hypotheticals like a Korean reunification, expressing hope for peace and stability.
I think we're going to see a Korean reunification. North Korea will be swallowed into South Korea. It'll take 1 or 2 generations, but I'm hoping it can happen without nuclear war. Terrible bloodshed.
You've sparked a lot of interesting ideas.
As the dialogue wraps up, it reflects on balancing regional peace and navigating. The discussion unfolds around China's role in reshaping global technological landscapes. The guest discusses how China is able to innovate with fewer constraints because of its historical transformations.
China has a lot of money, brilliant people, and a government hell-bent on leading the world in advanced technology. Their culture allows them to really push boundaries.
The guest highlights China's governance focus on vast engineering projects and social policies like the one-child policy as solutions to national challenges.
In China, it's run by engineers. Environmental problems lead to massive projects like the Three Gorges Dam.
While we're busy with distractions, they're engineering their way to success.
The narrative suggests the need for strategic geopolitical engagement, comparing the focused efforts of China to the distractions seen in the U.S.
America has to focus. We're too distracted, while China plays the long game.
The conversation shifts to North Korea, where the regime's focus on nuclear ambitions comes at the cost of essential human needs.
Their infrastructure is terrible. They have nice roads because there are no cars, but suffer from constant power outages.
Technological development is limited to state-controlled sites, emphasizing loyalty to the Kim family.
They don't have an internet, just a few state-run websites. Loyalty requires generational commitment just to live in Pyongyang.
What happens if someone seeks independence? What tools could they have?
The guest shares stories of oppression, exposing the harsh realities faced by those living under North Korea's regime.
I've met people from these camps. One friend's family lost everything due to simply being accused.
The discussion moves to genetic modifications and their potential to revolutionize healthcare by focusing on personalized medicine.
The era of making genetic changes is here. We're moving toward treating diseases, but the possibilities extend far beyond that.
The guest elaborates on genome sequencing and creative uses of genetic alterations in cultural evolution.
As long as changes aren't legally questionable, but I'm intrigued by the possibilities.
The conversation shifts to the future of AI and its intersection with human evolution, exploring AI's rapid advancement.
AI technologies are becoming integrated into our lives and evolutionary process. We may want them to be more rational than we are.
The guest foresees AI achieving near-human capabilities in some areas but remaining unique in essence.
AI will be its own form of intelligence. We may not even realize how intertwined it will become with our own evolution.
The conversation explores AI's performance in strategic games, illustrating its rapid advancements.
AlphaZero learned Go by itself and surpassed all expectations quickly.
They're certainly better at some things, like playing chess, now surpassing even masters.
The discussion delves into a transformative future driven by technological advancements, promising to redefine health management.
And I want us to be the leading technological country in the world.
But we need economic growth and competition.
The potential of predictive genetics arises as a game changer, challenging existing perceptions of fate.
Predictive genetics will transform healthcare. What we call healthcare now is...
As society stands on the brink of a technological revolution, the guest emphasizes the urgency of establishing international standards to manage the rapid advancement of AI and genetics. They draw parallels with historical efforts against inhumane practices, stressing a similar need for global cooperation.
We have a window of opportunity now. Like with chemical and nuclear weapons, there was a collective agreement that something had to be done, and it was largely successful. That's the kind of initiative we need here.
The guest is particularly concerned about the potential for AI to reach a point of no return before society even realizes it. They highlight the significance of public engagement and education.
People can't be afraid of entering this conversation. The field might seem technical or someone else's business, but it's crucial for everyone.
But isn't there an inherent danger in non-compliance by other countries? They might view standards as anti-competitive.
It's definitely a challenge. Holding this balance is hard, but necessary.
The conversation shifts to the transformative potential of predictive genetics in healthcare, while also addressing societal inequalities.
Predictive genetics will be able to accurately forecast a person's health. Imagine the impact of that on public health systems.
What's the biggest detriment we need to avoid?
Determinism. If we reduce the human experience to mere data, that will harm us fundamentally. We also need to address equity and access. Even if the technologies aren't real yet, their perceived inequities can cause harm.
Using India's caste system as an example, the guest illustrates how misconceptions can perpetuate inequality.
In India, genetic differences between castes are non-existent, yet the system persists due to accepted false differences. We aren't culturally or educationally ready for these technologies either.
What about the first major technological shift on the horizon?
The end of procreative sex. Once embryo selection replaces natural conception, it will open a massive realm of possibility and ethical debate.
The discussion dives into the ethical complexities introduced by genetic engineering. The conversation emphasizes integrity's role in managing rapid technological advancements, such as CRISPR.
There is this precision in gene editing. The stuff that happened in China last year, I think it will be significant. But with tools like CRISPR, people imagine extreme changes. However, human biology is incredibly complicated, so it's not as simple as adding limbs or wings.
The guest elaborates on the importance of regulations, suggesting that while the technology holds tremendous potential, a regulated environment is crucial to prevent misuse.
We want to live in regulated environments. All this stuff will be possible, and imagination can run wild. But that's why regulations are essential.
The real concern is about competition, right? We don't want our regulations to stifle us while China and Russia advance unfettered.
The conversation shifts to handling genetic data, comparing privacy models across Europe, China, and the United States.
Looking globally, Europe has strong privacy protections. China is the weakest, and the US is in the middle. Genetics is the ultimate big data problem, requiring access to vast data pools.
Attention then turns to sports, where genetic engineering raises issues about fairness and the concept of a level playing field.
Consider athletes like Lance Armstrong. He manipulated his body by adding more red blood cells. But soon we can sequence athletes and see who has natural advantages.
It's wild, right? Like having categories in MMA to ensure fairness, but what about genetic advantages?
If someone has a huge genetic advantage, should others be allowed to manipulate their own bodies? There's something called gene doping that challenges these ethical boundaries.
The conversation delves into how technology extends human creativity. The guest underscores that technology is not alien but a reflection of our collective art and cities. The crucial question is ensuring it serves us without undermining the planet or our humanity.
The challenge is, how can we make sure that this technology serves our needs rather than undermines our needs?
Yeah, and whether our needs supersede the needs of the human race or the planet.
The guest warns that those leading technological advancements may shape the planet's future, highlighting concerns about species extinction and climate change.
There was an article that came out the other day. There's 1 million species that are on the verge of extinction. We are driving all these other species to extinction. We're warming the planet.
Reflecting on history, the guest recalls Global Efforts Post, World War II, to uphold values and human rights as a guiding force for future technology.
And we had this terrible Second World War. And yet at the end of the Second World War, with American leadership, the world came together. We established a United Nations. We established these concepts of human rights.
It's just too much to think about, yeah, but we have to.
I know, we do have to. There's this insatiable desire to improve things.
The discussion then turns to brain-machine interfaces, with companies like Neuralink and Kernel exploring ways to connect our brains to machines.
I know a decent amount, and my friend Brian Johnson, he has a company, Kernel. There's a few different companies that are trying to think about these brain-machine interfaces.
Although progress is being made, the complexity of our brains means significant advancements are still on the horizon. The potential to download or upload memories is envisioned, though in its infancy. The podcast dives deep into the ethical challenges of genetic editing and embryo screening, focusing on maintaining integrity while making complex decisions.
Do you see these technologies being accessible to everyone soon, or just the wealthy?
It probably starts with wealthier groups, but think about the cost of lifetime care for genetic diseases. Preventing these could be economically viable for society.
The guest underscores the sensitivity required when discussing genetic selection, especially concerning conditions like Down syndrome.
I know many wonderful kids with Down syndrome who deserve every chance. It's crucial we don't dehumanize anyone while making decisions about embryo selection.
They highlight ethical dilemmas such as choosing which embryos to implant, focusing on cases like Tay-Sachs where the quality of life is severely impacted.
We must consider, if you had embryos with severe diseases, would you choose to implant them? These are sensitive decisions requiring careful thought.
The guest discusses broader resistance, noting concerns among both religious and progressive groups.
Some say we're playing God, or they're worried about a slippery slope with germline modifications. But these changes can pass through generations, so caution is key.
The conversation turns to recent unethical practices, like the controversial case of a Chinese scientist.
The gene edits by this biophysicist likely failed and were done without consent. We must be mindful and perform thorough risk-benefit analyses on interventions.
We don't want to rush into these advancements and miss the larger ethical picture, right?
The dialogue stresses integrity's role in ensuring genetic advancements align with values of equality and respect, guiding technologies with. The discussion starts with emphasis on making scientific concepts accessible to everyone. The guest underscores the duty to ensure audiences understand complex ideas, reflecting a cultural commitment to inclusivity.
Science is transforming the world within us and around us. We have to understand it. If my book feels dense or too hard, that's my failure.
The guest shares an experience of giving a talk in New York, highlighting the importance of clarity in science communication to maintain audience engagement.
I try to make it accessible. They were all jazzed up, but then a technical explanation followed. I could see their excitement shrink.
This illustrates the challenge of balancing technical detail with comprehensible communication. The conversation shifts to a pivotal meeting in Kyoto, where the guest confronts top researchers about long-term implications.
I asked about their current work and its impact 50 years from now. Excited about the present, they froze facing the future implications.
Yeah, it's like the Manhattan Project. They focus on how to do it, not the eventual consequences.
Historical references reflect how cultural contexts influence scientific priorities, focusing more on immediate goals. The conversation transitions to AI's potential futures.
The singularity. We could soon reach a point where AI is self-learning. Imagine it reading every book in seconds, gaining knowledge rapidly.
As the guest elaborates, they echo Ray Kurzweil's predictions of AI advancing to challenge societal norms, pressing the need for responsible regulation. The conversation delves into the interplay between technological innovation and societal well-being, focusing on algorithms in social media that drive engagement by promoting divisive content.
Because they want to get ads on their page, and the more clicks they get, the more money they get from those ads. And so, they want to incentivize people to go there, and the best way through the algorithm, without doing it on purpose, is to get people upset.
The host highlights how this system has become an accepted part of daily life, leading to frustration and heated debates.
We've gotten to this point where this is just an accepted part of our lives. Did you go to check your Google feed or your Facebook feed?
The urgency for regulatory measures is clear, but the host ponders the actual influence of regulations.
That comes back to the point about regulation. The question is, how big is your stick?
The guest explains the complexity of algorithms and their impact, emphasizing the need for proactive measures to prevent societal breakdown.
This stuff is really intricate. We have to really get down beneath these algorithms, which are unbelievably complex. We're pushed into camps.
Drawing parallels to genetic engineering, the host points out regulatory challenges once technologies are integrated.
My concern is this would be similar with genetic engineering. We need regulations, but once it gets rolling, it's not protecting us.
Yeah, I totally agree with you that if we wait until it's a crisis, it's too late because all the big decisions will have been made.
The guest emphasizes the importance of foresight and proactive measures, making it clear the time to act. In this dynamic conversation, the guest delves into the profound connection between consciousness and ecological mindfulness. Through cacao ceremonies, the guest seeks to foster a deep appreciation for the journey from seed to cup.
You know, when I do these cacao ceremonies, I want people to think of the person in Honduras who planted the seed, who watered it, transported it. We can expand our consciousness through our own means.
The guest's approach centers on self-exploration and meditation rather than relying on psychedelics. This perspective starkly contrasts with the host's advocacy for psychedelic substances as transformative tools.
It's really preposterous. If you experience psilocybin, you wouldn't say it this way. It's profoundly influential for your perspective.
The guest brings personal experiences with Tibetan practices into the conversation, emphasizing cultural and traditional methods for achieving heightened awareness.
I'm on this journey to see what's possible within myself. I've met with His Holiness the Dalai Lama many times. These people reach incredible states of consciousness that change their brains.
Technological advances also enter the discussion. The host posits that virtual reality might recreate psychedelic states, aligning technology with consciousness exploration.
Terence McKenna described this concept of recreating psychedelic states through VR. It's theoretical, sure, but intriguing.
Humans are more hackable than we think. Our biology isn't fixed. Even mild electric stimulation can alter consciousness.
The conversation presents diverse views on consciousness expansion, integrating tradition, self-exploration, and the potential of technology, leaving intriguing possibilities open for future exploration.